Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Rena, and welcome to
Biopic, a podcast story. This is a podcast where we dissect the good, bad, ugly, and absurd of this specific genre of motion picture, the biopic. If you want to learn more about us, our scoring system, and how we choose movies, please check out our special introductory episode, Introduction, Who Are We and What Are We Doing?
Sarah, what movie are we doing this week?
This week we are doing 2017's Hidden Figures as our final film in Black History Month, which we have extended into March.
Yes, we had the Intelligent Speech Conference toward the end of the month, and we are a little bit behind because Sarah wrote a book and I landed my dream job, so there's been a bit of a delay.
Rena, is there a trigger warning this week?
This movie contains depictions of and or references to racism, sexism, segregation, multi-generational homes, widowhood, the space race, pearl necklaces, second marriages, NASA, and Kevin Costner.
Rena, can you please give us the spoiler warning?
Spoiler warning. We are going to spoil everything, including possibly the major plot points in works of narrative art having nothing to do with this particular movie. Consider yourself warned. Some of the sources we used in this episode include the book Hidden Figures, an article from space.com about what the movie got right and wrong, an article from Frockflix about the movie Hidden Figures and the very fine work that was done on the costumes here, and you added a couple too, Sarah.
I have an article that I read from madamenoir.com and also an article from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, just with a little bit of James Baldwin in there that I'm going to reference later in the show.
Yes. Sarah, can you please tell us a little bit about the NASA workers shown in the movie Hidden Figures and about the movie Hidden Figures?
Of course, from our friends at Wikipedia and other friends on the internet. Before I get started here, you're going to hear me use a term, and we're going to use a term throughout this episode that is called the human computer. This is a person performing mathematical calculations before electronic calculators and computers became available. Human computers would be a team of people, often women, from the late 19th century onward, who were used to undertake long and often tedious calculations. The work was divided so that it could be done in parallel, and the same calculations were frequently performed independently by separate teams to check the correctness of the results. I'm going to also mention which actress plays them for ease. So Katherine Johnson, who is played by Taraji P. Henson. She was born August 26, 1918, and she died February 24, 2020. So she was 102 years old. She was a human computer whose calculations of orbital mechanics as a NASA employee were critical to the success of the first and subsequent U.S. crewed space flights. During her 33-year career at NASA and its predecessor, which was the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, she earned a reputation for mastering complex manual calculations and helped pioneer the use of computers to perform tasks previously requiring humans. The space agency noted her, quote, historical role as one of the first African American women to work as a NASA scientist. Next, we have Dorothy Vaughan, who is played by Octavia Spencer in this film. She was born September 20th, 1910, and died November 10th, 2008. So she lived to see Barack Obama become president, which I love, and also was just a scant 98 years old when she passed. She was also a human computer. She became a computer programmer and a teacher. She worked for National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, then later NASA, and also at Langley in Hampton, Virginia. She became the acting supervisor of West Area Computers, the first African-American woman to receive a promotion and supervise a group of staff at the center. She later headed the programming section of the Analysis and Computation Division at Langley. And then last we have Mary Jackson, who was born 1921 and died in February 2005. She is played by Janelle Monáe in this movie. She was an aerospace engineer at NACA and then NASA. Also worked at Langley for most of her career. She started at the segregated West Area Computing Division in 1951. And then, as we see in the film, also, she took engineering classes and became NASA's first Black female engineer. After her 34-year career there, she had earned the most senior engineering title available to anyone. She eventually accepted a demotion to become a manager of both the Federal Women's Program in the NASA Office of Equal Opportunity Programs and of the Affirmative Action Program. So she worked to influence the hiring and promotion of women in NASA's science, engineering, and mathematics careers. 3 amazing women. The movie Hidden Figures came out in 2016. It is co-produced and directed by Theodore Melfi, who co-wrote the screenplay with Alison Schroeder. What he actually did was he made rewrites on her original script. Just want to be clear with that. This movie was a huge hit. It was a $25 million budget, and it earned $236 million worldwide, which is just incredible. Honestly, this movie has one of the smoothest and boringest paths to the big screen that we've ever covered on this show. The book came out in 2016, but prior to its official publication, Donna Gigliotti, the producer, optioned the manuscript. She, just as a note, started her career as Martin Scorsese's assistant on Raging Bull, and yes, I am jealous. So she optioned the book.
You don't even like that movie, Sarah. What are you talking about? I don't,
but she got to be his assistant. And I would like to be his assistant for something. Alison Schroeder, who was a screenwriter who had done a lot in television, wrote the script. They went into production in 2016 with Theodore Melfi in the director's chair. It was solid material, became a solid screenplay, and it was made into a movie that came out in 2017. I think it's just worth noting that this is what happens when women have a controlling stake in a project. Things just get done.
When I went to do my research, it bugs me that so many of the books about these women are written for children, and it bugs me that despite many seminal books written about the space race, it took until Hidden Figures came out for us to be aware of their contributions, because if you were making Apollo 13 today, you'd have to cast someone as at least one of these 3 women, since Katherine Johnson was also involved in the calculations that helped bring Jim Lovell and the 3 other guys who were not played by Tom Hanks back to Earth.
Okay, that's some bullshit. There are no women in Apollo 13 except for Kathleen Quinlan.
Well, there's the daughter who's upset that the Beatles broke up, where they tell her that she shouldn't be upset about the Beatles just being broken up because her dad is lost in space or something.
Okay, so we got 2. And it's all just a bunch of dudes in shirt sleeves smoking cigarettes in Mission Control.
Yeah, God, does anything look dorkier than a short sleeve white button down and a black tie?
I'm sure if I stop and think about it, I will come up with something, but
aside from pairing that with socks and sandals, which they at least have the grace not to do in this movie.
Yeah, it is one of the most prematurely aging looks. It's a look I associate with a way that men don't dress anymore.
Well, the women in this movie are all hot, even when they're playing people we would call nerds. The men are not hot unless they're in uniform, like, by which I mean army uniform or space uniform.
Some of the suits are really cut weird on the men. On Jim Parsons, I noticed, I was like, you look like David Byrne. His suit definitely didn't fit.
That's funny. I do enjoy when Jim Parsons shows up in things because, as we've spoken about and wound up cutting often on this show, I hate The Big Bang Theory, but I like Jim Parsons, so I think of him more playing bitchy queens in a lot of the roles he took after Sheldon.
Yeah, and he is a villain in this movie.
It is subtly done. Like, he isn't shown having some big lightning bolt speech, and it's like he kind of vacillates in how he gets better and worse across the course of the film, which I think is natural. And the same thing with Kirsten Dunst's character, who is a composite. And you noted there that Dorothy Vaughan was promoted in 1949, but here they make it like, they show it as if everything happened in the early 60s. Like, this thing with the bathroom that is a huge point in here didn't happen. And a lot of the drama that they're shown dealing with in the early 60s are issues that, due to a lot of small battles fought by Black women, not a white man with a sledgehammer, had slowly been resolved one by one over the course of the 40s and 50s before this movie starts. It is something we deal with frequently, compression for storytelling purposes.
I got stuff to say when we get to that part.
It's that Oscar clip section, but anger is actually really easy to play. This was my second time watching this movie. This is a feel-good movie. I enjoyed it a great deal. It makes you feel great.
Yes. Yes. It's I would say off the bat, the white saviorhood in this movie doesn't feel as bad as it does sometimes. This is no Mississippi Burning where there's no Black people in it.
It feels like the white saviorhood in this movie was put in by people who had at least heard of the concept of white saviorhood and understood what it is, and were maybe thinking, okay, perhaps we should not be that bad about, by people who had a little bit of perspective, but were still writing for a mass audience on a film they wanted to cross over.
Really, it's Costner's character.
Because we keep casting him and stuff, even though he's a pain to work with.
I gotta say, too, and this is very confusing to me, but I didn't mind him in this movie. You know how I feel about him.
Oh, yeah. Dead-eyed
charisma.
Yes.
I felt like this was, like, first, 2017 Costner has not come roaring back in all of his egotistical, nightmarish glory with Yellowstone yet. So he's kind of just working as an actor in this. And because of that, like, you don't feel the oppressive Costner, like, I need to be in control of this project energy that you sometimes get from him. And I did text you, and I want to be clear also when I'm saying this, like, he is pretty much like, he's giving like his best Harrison Ford in this movie.
This does feel like one of Harrison Ford's curmudgeon roles.
Yeah.
That he started doing, but yeah.
Yeah, like it feels like maybe they offered it to Harrison Ford first and he wasn't available. But I don't mind Costner in this, and they are deploying his, as I said, dead-eyed charisma to the best of its strengths in this movie.
First, we open on a childhood flashback so that we go into it knowing right away that Katherine Johnson is a child prodigy, like that she's absolutely brilliant. And this is a great movie for supportive families. Nobody has a parent who tells them they'll never amount to anything. I would have moments where I would get a little bit worried about that. Like when there's that scene where she comes home and she's late for dinner and she sits down with the mom, and the mom does not tell her you're never home for dinner. The mom is like a little worried and knows that she has to hold down the fort because her daughter's a widow and has to be the breadwinner too. Like the closest you see to that is Janelle Monáe's husband, and he just doesn't want her to get hurt by having her letting herself dream and have it crushed.
These are all good families. Like it's kind of amazing and wonderful.
Janelle Monáe is brilliantly multi-talented. I love all her albums from the Electric Lady cycle. If anything, she's underrated and also just one of the most gorgeous creatures on the planet.
She's so adorable.
We loved her last year in Harriet, and she's great in this too. She was also great in Moonlight.
And also, I think I'm on the record on this show as saying that I would follow Octavia Spencer to the gates of hell. If not, let me go on the record with that right now. I love watching her in things, and she's exquisite in this. Taraji P. Henson is also exquisite in this, as she is exquisite in everything. She's a really wonderful actors. This is a real like murderer's row of a trio
Mm-hmm.
in this film, these three actresses, and they are front and center in this film, and I love that.
I worked for Sotheby's for a bit. One of the auctions that happened while I was there was the auction of Buzz Aldrin's personal effects. So I guess that my connection to this movie is that I have held Buzz Aldrin's MTV Moon Man statue. I have held objects that were exposed to the vacuum of space. I held within plastic paper the launch program for Apollo 11, and that was incredible. And one of the items that was in that 2022 auction was a letter from Neil Armstrong to Buzz Aldrin advising him against making a biopic. And we will get to Apollo 13 and The Right Stuff eventually, but I've said this already. I'm annoyed to discover that, of course, nobody was cast as any of these women in those movies. I don't know if Tom Wolfe even mentions them in the book The Right Stuff was based on, but I love Buzz Aldrin so much for punching that anti-moon landing conspiracy theorist in the face. It's one of the best videos ever made. It makes me happy every time I watch it, and I watch it multiple times because I just despise conspiracy theorists with every fiber of my being. Like, we were there, it was real. We were living the day of the icons, and we were able to actually do things as a nation for a while.
Yeah, everything wasn't as stupid as it is now. I actually worked on a project with Buzz Aldrin and also with another wonderful astronaut named Alan Bean. Astronauts are pretty special people. I'm a huge fan of, let me explain myself. I don't believe it. I just love it. I love the conspiracy theory about the faked moon landing that involves Stanley Kubrick because it's a fun story. It's a fun
but then, okay,
idea.
But then who went to the moon after, was that filmed too? And it's holding that we aren't capable of these things, that government can't do good things for people, so we might as well not take care of anyone. And conspiracy theories are just there to throw dirt at stuff. And it's like saying that ancient aliens made the pyramids because they don't think that humans are capable of ingenuity. Like, no, humans built the pyramids very nicely on our own. Thank you very much. Dumbass conspiracy theorists. I bloody fucking hate conspiracy theories, Sarah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to turn down the temperature a minute here and just say I am on your side.
Okay.
I just happen to like the story because it's fun. I don't believe it, but I like it because it's fun. I know that's not what happened, but
I don't find it fun.
Have some fun. We're in the final stages.
It's on an era when we were actually capable of reaching for the stars.
Like, none of this is going to matter in a year because we're all going to be dead. It's fun to imagine that, like, Stanley Kubrick got forced into making the moon landing and then told on himself 10 years later making The Shining in just a few rando ways. But all that said, let us move on from here
because I don't see the humor.
And you don't see the humor.
No, I just feel mad that this exists at all.
Okay.
I feel mad that I feel too angry that anti-moon landing conspiracy theories exist at all to have any sense of humor about the Stanley Kubrick thing.
And that is fine anyway. So all of these women are commuting to work together. And
so I could not find any evidence that they actually had a carpool. When I looked through Hidden Figures, the only reference to carpool was like that the white people who worked at the agency carpooled sometimes. But it's a nice storytelling device. I get it.
Yeah, it is. And also, were they friends?
I think they knew each other, but it seems like the way that they're shown as best gal pals here, between the composite characters and, like, it does a lot of things that like
That we
films
frown
intend.
upon,
Well,
but
yeah, because I don't want to say the word middle brow and sound like a like I it does a lot of things that popular films do to tell a cohesive story when there's a big story. Um
yeah. Yeah, it's a lot to pack in, and I don't mind the device.
I like that it shows Mary's attitude. It gives us a good intro to them and how they're all dealing with car broke down.
Yeah, and a cop pulls up, and I was like, do we think this cop hates black people more than communists? We get to the office, and we have our first sighting of Kevin Costner. We see that Catherine is going to work in his offices as she's a human computer, but she is made for way more. And then Jim Parsons is here in his ill-fitting suit. And like, to this movie's credit, I couldn't tell if he was a misogynist or a racist.
Yeah.
So it is progress
Mm-hmm.
in our in our portrayal. Like, there is a racism happening in this film, but it's unique in that it's very much like that baked in. People like are kind of like they're comfortable with the established flow of things kind of racism that's much more insidious than like no one's showing up to work in a Klan hood, but you can tell there's like this real like this isn't how things are energy that these women are constantly pushing against because people are just like, this is uncomfortable for me and I don't want to deal with it, so I need to shut it down. Kirsten Dunst and Jim Parsons are the closest we get to kind of like a mustache twirling kind of bad guy.
I appreciated that the film doesn't really give them a big moment of grace, either of them.
No, it definitely doesn't. Like, no one says the N-word, but it's so institutionalized in everything that's going on that
Mm-hmm.
it's really kind of interesting to see that kind of racism unfold in a movie. We see Mary go into a centrifuge room, and this other engineer who's a Jewish immigrant from from Europe, and he is telling her, you know what, you can dream big, and you should dream big, and go be an engineer.
Oh, I love this dialogue that he has where he asks her directly if you were a white man, and she said, "Well, if I were a white man, I'd be an engineer already."
Mm-hmm. And also, it's a good nod to our space program, and the success of our space program was built on a lot of immigrants. Some of them not so great. If you want to, yeah, go, yeah, Google Operation Paperclip for more information. There were also good people who were brought over and who helped to build our space program in the United States. It wasn't just Americans. It was an international project. Next, we see Dorothy going into to her space, and we meet Kirsten Dunst, who's just Karening it up in this movie. I thought it was a really good performance from her because it was subtle. She changed her walk. I don't know if you noticed this in her performance. She had a very Karen walk in this movie.
They're all wearing heels, and there's this one point where Mary's heel gets stuck in a grate while she's running in to watch a test.
Yeah, the outfits that these women wore every single day, like, first of all, stunning, but second of all, like they were dressed to the nines every single day,
and they had to think about how it went to get like not like these dudes who can just show up in
same suit,
like Dilbert every day.
Yeah, same suit day after day. Where Catherine is like, everybody thinks she's the maid when she walks in, and they're like, here's where to put the garbage. And I'm like, oh, good. But Costner calls Jim Parsons to the carpet, and he's like, you will listen to this woman. And then we also see that part of her experience of working there is that She has to go to a bathroom that is 30 minutes away from their offices whenever she wants to
I think she
use the
says
bathroom.
half a mile, and she's cited as taking 40-minute breaks, and you see her scuttling along. So I mean, I can walk a mile in about 20 minutes, so it sounds like it's 10 minutes there and 10 minutes back each time.
Another thing that's fun that we see is that no one wants to touch the coffee maker after she touches it, and it's like,
and they get her own coffee separate, like, little coffee pot with chock full of nuts that is never filled.
I mean, not unlike in introducing Dorothy Dandridge, we are reminded yet again, like, how incredibly stupid racists are.
Yeah.
Like, what did they think they were going to catch from the coffee maker?
I don't know.
What are we catching from the pool water? You people are so dumb. And, you know, and we see that we have a moment, and this is the kind of moment I love whenever like a math person starts talking, which is that he makes math sound like a spiritual experience as he's talking to his team. And I love that. I love when we see that in movies. We also find out that Octavia Spencer has been working for 10 years and has all the responsibilities of a supervisor, but none of the perks of a supervisor, which is a thing that fortunately has never continued to happen to women.
Oh, no.
Or women of color since this time period. So that's good that we locked that down and stopped doing that. You know, we meet Janelle Monáe's husband, who's becoming like an activist, and we find out more about Catherine's home life, and, you know, that she is a widow, and we are at church and we've got kids in their Sunday best, which I love seeing in movies. Oh, it's so cute.
They take so much pride in their appearance.
I like being able to wear my workout pants around the house, but it's like, go out, you know, when I go out in public, it's hard pants.
Yeah.
You wear hard pants in public, at least. And we also get introduced here to a man named Colonel Jim, who is described as a tall glass of water. And the actor playing this character is Mahershala Ali. So that completely checks out. He is a tall glass of water.
Yes. Mary and Dorothy are sort of like going into wingwoman overdrive here around Catherine, who's like embarrassed. And it's like, it was a joyful cringe that I felt at how hard they're wingwomaning her.
I mean, I'm like, go girl. Like, both of you go for it. Like, you're both two of the best looking people on the planet, the two of them. Yeah. I'm like, you both need to go for it. And he likes her. Yeah. Just the way she is.
I love that he's drawn to her for being smart and outspoken when women are still shamed for being nerdy. We're still like, you're not going to get a boyfriend if you're too good at math.
When I was in high school, I remember like holding my punches about raising my hand in certain classes because, like, if there was a cute boy there, I didn't want to look like a know-it-all.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of that. And honestly, it didn't even matter. I should have been a know-it-all all the time because nobody wanted to go out with me, even when I was being serene and not raising my hand and drawing attention to the fact that I was smart. So, waste of energy. Like, if you know it, raise your hands. This movie is very, like, episodic, so it's a little hard to describe the plot, but we also, you know, we see, like, kind of the main thrust of things is going to be about getting American men into space.
Because the Soviets have gone into space, and we have to catch up.
Yeah, we have a sighting of Laika.
Oh, but Strelka and Belka came back to Earth.
Yeah, poor Laika.
As we learned in Temple Grandin.
What a little cutie pie. Oh. But we meet John Glenn, who is played by Glenn Powell, who doesn't love. I mean, honestly, like you're not human if you don't love Glenn Powell a little bit at this point. He's dreamy, and John Glenn himself is dreamy. And yeah. He comes off as a good dude in this.
You need people who get along with people because they're going to be in really close quarters under heavy stress at immense public expense.
The other thing, too, is like they're also nerds. They they did fly things and fly, and did time in, in the Air Force and the Navy and everything. But they were also nerds. Like, they were math people. Katherine is starting to really quickly prove herself within her offices. The thrust of kind of what is happening through a lot of this movie is about her and the calculations that need to be done to get people to and from space safely. And the fact that math doesn't even entirely exist yet.
To turn an elliptical into a parabola.
Those are two math words. And she's really good, and Costner picks up on that and sees that she's really good. And she is leaning in and raising her hand and saying, I can do this.
Everyone looks at her numbers on the blackboard and they see that she's right. And she has issues around that there are numbers that she needs to do calculations that she cannot see because they're classified. So she does math around them where they're like, you can't know this, are you a spy? And she says that, well, I held it to the light. And Kevin Costner is like, we need to get darker ink. But he tells them to give her everything she needs. It is kind of white savior-y, the way when a lot of what's shown here are things that are battles that the woman fought on their own over a long period of time, bit by bit.
This all kind of culminates in this sequence where she comes back from one of her Oregon Trail style visits to the restroom. Where
she has to go back to West Computing Group. She points out that she can't take one of the bicycles because she's required to follow their dress code of skirt below the knee and heels.
Costner's all, where have you been? And she loses her shit. She righteously points out that this is all bullshit.
So I guess they all walk for 10 minutes together back to West Computing so that he can take down the colored women's restroom sign. So I'm like, wait, is he saying that black women shouldn't be able to use the bathroom anywhere? Yeah, I'm not going to nitpick on that. The intent is known.
The intent is known, and as you said, this never happened. This was a battle that was waged entirely by these individual women to claw their rights to themselves as hard as they could over an extended period of time. And by having Costner go in there and do it all at once is really taking away from that very much less cinematic, but truer and realer struggle. This is from the Madame Noir article that I pulled out, where the writer was talking about how this movie, does undermine these women's work by having these white saviors, which I really think is primarily Kevin Costner's character. The director was asked about this and he was like, well, there have to be good white people too, more or less is what he said. And I'm like, well, no, there don't have to be. History has shown us that no, there don't necessarily have to be good white people.
No.
This idea that white people are not the protagonists in situations makes some white artists so incredibly uncomfortable that they can't handle it. I think that's why we see, not as much lately, thank God, but we have over time seen so many movies that are the civil rights era through the eyes of a white lady. It's why we see education in some states being depleted in this way, because people are very concerned that white children are going to be uncomfortable hearing that they weren't always the good guys. I feel like this movie walks right up to making a really good point around this, but then it's but there gotta be some good white people. It undermines the work that these women did. At the same time, you can't give one of these characters the moment where they go in with a crowbar and rip a sign down, because they would just get fired.
Then when we get to the scene where I want to murder this librarian who won't let Dorothy have the Fortran book.
I mean.
And this is just showing why separate, but there was never any effort to have equal facilities under separate but equal.
Oh.
And one of the things that Mary Jackson, one of her reflections when she went to this high school that she couldn't have attended, where was that she thought about how shabby it looked, and she thought about how shabby the black school looked, and she thought, wouldn't it be better if instead of funding separate shabby high schools, we had all the money pooled to have a nice high school for all the students to go to together?
I mean, now you're talking crazy. But yeah, Plessy versus Ferguson is bullshit. Mm. We also see here, too, that the courtship of Mahershala Ali and Katherine, they haven't kissed yet. And I'm like, okay, both of you need to, what are we doing?
Yeah,
like, why aren't you
way too hot?
Like, what is stopping either of you from making out? But it is a lovely courtship.
Yes.
We see how much they like each other and how he's such a gentleman. And I just keep writing OMG Mahershala Ali in my notes because he's really dreamy in this movie.
Yeah.
And we also see, at this point too, like we're seeing a lot of the civil rights movement unfolding in the background in this film, not only just like the separate but equal nonsense, but also, just the movement towards voting rights. We're seeing all of this kind of unfolding really elegantly in the background of this movie. Janelle Monáe has decided she wants to she wants to become an engineer. She is told that she cannot do that without like certain additional accreditations that have just been like tacked onto the manual. And Kirsten Dunst is all like, sorry, that's the way it is. It's in the rule book.
Like the worst people in the world are people who are stringent about rules and protocols.
Yes.
Always the worst person in the world is going to be someone waving a rule book in your face.
Yeah. So
and they're hung up on like weird little like things they think are courtesies or just how it's done that are not they're not seeing the whole forest there.
Yeah. And
they're like, no, you can't poke at this one tree or it'll fall down.
All the programs for her to go to are segregated. Mm-hmm. And she finds one at a local school and she has to like fight to be included in this. And she goes and does this and stands up for herself and says like, I need to go to this program. And the judge finally relents and is like,
okay, and it's like she does a lot of work to charm this judge. She doesn't deserve it.
Oh, she hustles so hard to get this and is so kind, and he's like such a turd about it, but at the same time he does relent and let her go to the school at night. Mm-hmm. Which, okay, great. And yeah, and then we see that this effort to get spaceships into the air is continuing apace, and they're working on the computations of this, and John Glenn is very attentive to Katherine, which I love.
Yeah, and I love that he relied on her calculations. Yeah. And, he's an all-American dreamboat in this. And
they chose these men very carefully to be good representatives. All of them.
It's not just that. There was also the concern about weight in the ship, because remember, there's that thing Dorothy Vaughan says about how they all have to be 5'11", 180 pounds, and have certain, and be Navy, or John Glenn is a Marine pilot.
Yes. They all have to have a certain look, but also like the way that they selected the men who represented the program in terms of like who made the groundbreaking moments.
Appearance. It was about
it was about character.
I'm sure they were calculating astronauts' weight into velocity.
Oh yes, but also though, I mean, just like their character though was also a part of the process in which they decided who was going to do what and when, mm-hmm. because like Neil Armstrong, like there were very good reasons why he was chosen to be the first one to set foot and not Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah, because Buzz Aldrin is a bigger personality, Neil
Yes.
Armstrong was like, he was quiet, or he's actually, that's something that people have said, that Neil Armstrong was actually a little bit shy.
When did we ever even see him after that? Like, very rarely.
He was on corporate boards. He lived fairly quietly after that.
Yeah.
I mean, he always had celebrity from it.
He definitely didn't exploit that celebrity at any time.
Well, and then Buzz Aldrin sold used cars because...
And Buzz Aldrin was on Dancing with the Stars, and Buzz Aldrin made appearances on the WWE. Like,
they knew what they were doing when they decided who would go first and who would go second.
Janelle Monáe starts going to classes, and the first night the teacher is just aghast that she is there, and he's like, this curriculum isn't designed for a woman. And
how a woman can do math.
I mean, it reminded me a lot of I had a teacher in high school who, when we talked about like economics of businesses, whenever he used a female as an example, she was always opening a hair salon or a nail salon.
But there are male hairdressers and women mathematicians.
Yes.
There are male nurses and women doctors.
I don't know if they existed in his world. And then every time he used one of the boys as an example, he was opening up a law firm. Yeah, no, it's infuriating. It's infuriating. All this shit is so baked in. And we also have a moment here too where Octavia Spencer is talking to Kirsten Dunst about management and things, and Kirsten Dunst finally says, I have nothing against y'all. And this line, yeah, I know you probably believe that.
Oh, that's right. That is what she says.
And then we go to Catherine's house, and she arrives home and thinks that she's in trouble because her mother's sitting at the table and the daughters are sitting at the table, and she's late. And Mahershala Ali is there, and he proposes marriage to her in front of the whole family. And he's like, I have to ask your daughters too, because they're part of this. And I was crying.
Oh my gosh, I know it would be a digression, but I want a cute scene of him asking the daughters for her hand.
So yeah, his proposal is lovely, and OMG, your wedding dress.
Mm-hmm.
So she finds out that her services are no longer going to be needed because they've got an IBM computer now.
Which nobody knows how to use except Dorothy.
Yeah, which is really sad. But she also does get married. And her wedding dress is amazing. I loved this wedding look. I loved the hat. It was more a bonnet.
Gorgeous. It had a little short veil that came down.
She looks gorgeous. And then all of a sudden they need more calculations. So
I'd seen this movie before, so I knew that this wasn't a thing that happened. But as they're running, I wasn't 100% clear on time or that the wedding was over. And I was wondering, like, is this going to turn into The Graduate, where Kevin Costner Kevin Costner's age shows up as she's getting married, and he's like pounding for her to come away and do their math in the middle of her wedding?
We need more decimal points. Need to go farther. Although a man firing a woman, replacing her with a computer, only to drag her back into the office on her wedding day is really, really on brand for the XY species. Let's be real.
Yeah.
That is the manest man thing that's ever manned. And yeah, Glenn Powell is like, I need the smart woman to tell me the numbers.
Yes.
And again, I just want that man to be a big star. Probably as much, but not quite as much as he wants to be a big star.
He should take the roles that Chris Evans is too old for. Although this is from 10 years ago, and they might be about the same age. Can you look that up?
He's a little bit younger than Chris Evans, but let me just look. He is born in 1988. Yeah, so he's younger than Chris Evans, because Chris Evans is just about our age.
Yeah, he should take the roles that Chris Evans is too old for.
Yes. And honestly, like he seems like a lovely delight. I went to a screening of Hitman when it was playing at the New York Film Festival, and it was during the
Mm-hmm.
actors strike, so he wasn't allowed to be there to promote the movie, but his family showed up, his parents were there, and
Oh,
they had Glenn Powell masks. Richard Linklater
oh.
introduced them from the stage, and he's like, "We do have some special guests here," and like four of them stood up, and they're holding like Glenn Powell cutouts of his face up and waving. I mean, adorable people. So yeah, I think I like him. I don't know if he's actually like secretly a bad person. I have no idea. I haven't done the work around knowing whether or not I should be cheering him on, but I do cheer him on because he's really charming and he's really working his tail off to get to the top. Anyway,
He done in the time since this movie.
since this movie, I mean, he's done a lot. He was in the Top Gun sequel.
Okay.
He made Hitman with Linklater. He made that movie Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney, which is apparently a takeoff of Much Ado About Nothing. I haven't watched it.
Didn't we already have 10 Things I Hate? Oh, wait, no, 10 Things I Hate About You is Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah.
Never mind.
And he's got a TV show now called, I think, Chad Powers. Like he's definitely hustling. Oh, and he was just in the remake of The Running Man, which was supposed to be pretty interesting. In my fantasy league, Coleman Domingo was getting an Academy Award nomination for his performance in that movie. That obviously didn't happen. But Coleman Domingo is always in my fantasy league winning something.
Nominated finally.
But yeah, he's got the chops to be a movie star. I'd like to see it happen.
Seems like a really good dude.
But then there is a problem with something, the heat shield. I don't know what any of this is.
The heat shield comes loose. And they have to get him back to Earth.
But it all turns out okay because of Catherine's calculations. We see the celebrations happening and we see the role that these women had in making this possible. We see Kirsten Dunst finally giving Dorothy the job that she deserves.
But this is done in a way where we do not give Kirsten Dunst any credit because she deserves none.
No, it's like with the exception of Costner, I do feel like all the white people in this movie do not do the right thing until all other options have been exhausted.
Yeah, so we shouldn't, even though it does have white saviorism, I still think it's progress in terms of showing white people just being shitty.
Like being casually shitty. Mm-hmm. After all the other options have been exhausted, she's like, fine, I'll be a good person.
I don't think it was her decision to promote or not to promote.
Probably not. Yeah, and it's not even like being a good person. It's get physically out of the way of it. We also see as our final shots, we see Jim Parsons bringing Katherine her cup of coffee. Again, progress. As we're closing, we see real images of all of these women and of their families and the work that they did, and see the whole full story of who they became and how important they were. And it's a wonderful ending.
I just wanted to note that, like, before the glory years of the space program are wound down, they calculated trajectories to Mars. And it was a time of the icons, and we've fallen, and we used to dream. And Katherine went on to win the Presidential Medal of Freedom back when it counted for something, just like the Apollo 11 astronauts that she put up there.
Maybe someday it'll matter again.
Maybe. I thought you said we were all going to die.
Well, on the chance that we don't, it could matter again someday. I mean, I guess that's our movie. This was delightful, if not...
And we did miss a whole bunch of stuff in the middle of it, but we don't always talk about all the things all the time.
Fun. It's fine. It was delightful. Like, they were delightful. The way that the civil rights movement was woven into the story was very elegant.
Yeah.
And I, for a change, didn't hate Kevin Costner in it. Probably there was also like there was a real limit to the amount of time we spent with him too.
Mm-hmm.
I know other people believe that this is not true, but that man cannot carry a movie.
No. No,
But
you're right.
oh boy, has the universe insisted that he can. And I feel like I'm the only person who's out here saying, no, he cannot.
The Emperor has no clothes.
The Emperor is often dead behind the eyes in his movies. It's definitely like it's a straight down the middle movie, but I think that the performances make it a lot edgier, and also like the material is kind of transgressive in its own really unique way, because it's about like we didn't see these women in these stories
before this, no,
which is insane. The other thing too is like nobody necessarily knows what contributions an engineer makes to a project. And
well, yeah, they do.
Well, I don't.
You're talking about the public doesn't know.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
people. Engineers know what engineers do.
Yeah. No, I'm just talking about like the public doesn't necessarily appreciate the individual contributions. And I think also like, there is kind of a quality of anonymity to a lot of the work that was done in the space race and in some of these really major moments in history that we don't necessarily get to see the individuals behind some of these accomplishments. And this movie brought to life some very technical stuff that didn't necessarily have to be that compelling. So yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, I agree.
So just some awards talk. I was delighted to find out that this is another movie that has its own separate Wikipedia page of awards.
Amazing.
Yes. This received 3 Oscar nominations, including one for screenplay and also for Octavia Spencer for her performance. And the movie was nominated for a total of 95 awards across the boards, and it won 39 of those. Everything from AARP Movies for Grown-Ups to the Alliance of Women Film Journalists, to Costume Designers Guild Awards, Critics' Choice, all sorts of state and city boards, Golden Globes, everything in between. Like, this got a lot of really, really great attention for what it was, and I think that's super cool. It also won Best Cast from the National Board of Review, and was one of the top 10 films of the year from the National Board of Review. Like, it was a really, really respected film, and it deserves that for both the subject matter that it breaks ground with, as well as like everyone is showing up and doing a heck of a great job. Oh, it also won a Screen Actors Guild Award for outstanding performance by a cast. So I love that it won so many awards for the cast and their work together, because the ensemble of this film was very strong. And did you have any choice dialogue?
Not really. There were the things they were saying about math that doesn't exist yet, and something that Janelle Monáe says about the astronauts, where she says, "I have the right to see fine in every color."
She was so fun in this movie.
She was. Sarah, can you please give our listeners a quick refresher about how we score movies?
I would be delighted to do that. We rate movies on a 1 to 10 scale across 10 areas that we find to be subjectively and or objectively important to most films, but specially tailored to specific issues, particular to biopics. If you want more details on how we score movies, please scroll down our webpage at biopicapodcaststory.podbean.com. You'll also find a record of our scores for past episodes there. And with that out of the way, let's score this thing.
So do you want me to go first?
Sure.
All right, I will go first. So, for outward appearances, makeup and hair, I gave it an 8. Everything looked very good. They didn't have anything particularly impressive to do, but it looked good. Acting and casting, I gave it a 10. Passage of time, 6. Costuming, 9.5. Quality of the script, because not only did they have to get everything accurate, and they had to show when people didn't care about clothes, but also everything looked amazing. And also the astronaut uniforms were a whole different kind of thing that they had to do. And I feel like I've been not very generous with costuming scores on this show sometimes. So 9.5. Quality of the script, 8. Accuracy, 3.9. I could not bring myself to give it a 4 with all the composite characters and all of the things but I know Katherine Johnson herself liked the movie and said that she hoped it would inspire little girls. So I couldn't bring myself to give a 4 quite with all the things that I don't like movies to do that it did. But anyway, production value 10, production direction decision making 9, do we care 10, and my total came to 8.34.
Okay. So, I did, so for outward appearances, makeup and hair, I gave it a 10, and I would go higher if I could. I think the flawless red lip happening throughout this movie on these women was sending me. And I think that definitely skewed my score, but I just they all just look so beautiful, in this movie, and their hair and makeup was gorgeous. Acting and casting, I gave it a 9. Just a tiny ding there for the presence of one Kevin Costner, even though, as I said, didn't hate him.
This is one of the better outings of his that we've seen, probably. Because he was in his he was in that moment before he suddenly had power again from Yellowstone. The space stuff looked really good for 25 mil.
Yeah. Production, direction, decision making, I gave it a 6. Composite characters, the incidents of white people being the heroes, I really didn't appreciate that.
But when you compare that to, there are some movies with white that are way worse than this on white saviorism. I cared a lot.
I loved watching these women's lives unfold. I loved seeing their families being so wonderful and supportive of them. I cared so much. And I care so much about the idea of women being able to get into these spaces that are dominated by men, to this day, because, oh boy, does it ever continue in all sorts of fields where
what women... What are we talking about, Sarah? We have female singers, female hairdressers, female...
Yes.
Women
are allowed
nurses.
To clean.
Yeah.
We can be cheerleaders.
Sure. So what's your average?
So my average is 7.5.
7.92.
Bravo, Hidden Figures. I think this is a good score for it.
I think this is a good movie and it's worth watching. Also, I guess I was feeling a little sad today. But I know it's months ago now, but I guess I was just watching videos from All in the Family of Meathead and Archie.
Yeah, there's a really good one where Meathead and Edith have a conversation about God and how she decides that she's not going back to church because her friend who was trans was murdered in a hate crime. I can't believe they were able to put this on television in the 70s.
I know, that show does so many things where it's everyone would make a big deal about this now.
Yeah.
And oh my God, Maude deciding, you know what, I'm too old, I don't want to have a kid. That isn't where I see my life going. TV was never that brave again.
No, certainly not. Certainly not now. But just this gorgeous episode of this show that made me cry when I rewatched it not long after Ron Howard passed. The in memoriam section
Not
of the
Ron
Oscars.
Ron Howard is still alive.
I am the charm of the operation. Rob Reiner.
I guess I wanted to recommend All in the Family is always.
Yeah.
It was just like sadly watching videos from, he had 50 good years after, like more.
Yeah. And he should have had another like 10, 15, whatever, like his dad lived forever.
Yeah, Carl Reiner lived to be 100.
Yeah, he probably could have lived another good chunk of time and been creating and contributing to society. And yeah, it's awful. I mean, I think like we watched all bangers this year for Black History Month. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, me too.
And had a really good spectrum of experience. Certainly like this year hit different, given the place and time we are in.
I mean, oh come on, every year since 2015 has sucked.
It has, but it's like I think like last year I think I had like some shreds of optimism that
last year was 2025. You're thinking of 2024.
No, I meant like when we were talking about this though, like I was like, if Shirley Chisholm can exist once, then she can exist again. And now I'm just like,
didn't we do her for Politics Month though?
Oh, maybe I thought we did. Okay,
wait, no. Wait, that was last. No, you're right. We did. I can't remember if we did her for Politics Month or Black. Let me look.
I think we did her for Black History Month because Politics.
And I think
Month...
I remember regretting that we didn't put her in Politics Month.
Yeah, because I think Politics we did all presidents.
We did Shirley last year for Black History Month,
and that's fine too. Hour 5 is a great show.
Okay,
they don't all have to be long.
So
we've had very long episodes this month because we've had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so you said that you thought of an apology for something. You emailed me about it. You texted me about it. I guess it's time for retractions, apologies, and listener mailbag.
Indeed. Before we go, we have to apologize for something we said in a previous episode that turned out to be misinformation, and we are sorry for this.
We were wrong. Sometimes. We're wrong.
Rena, I would ask you what we were wrong about, but I know what we were wrong about.
Sarah, what were we wrong about?
In the episode on Dolomite Is My Name, I was talking about the Danny Trejo film Machete and a scene in which he throws a guy out a window by his intestines and hangs him there. That was not what happened. What happened is Machete, played by Danny Trejo, takes a man's intestines and lowers and sort of flings himself out a window on a second floor down to the first floor, using this man's intestines as a rope. I apologize for getting this wrong because I should have remembered.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a totally different use of intestines. Like in the one case, it's just being violent to someone, but in the other case, you're using the victim. I don't know if this guy is a victim. The other person's intestines are a means of saving lives.
Yeah, I mean, he used a bad man's intestines as a means of egress, and. I haven't checked the Geneva Conventions recently, but I not a court in the land, I speculate, would hold him responsible for killing this man to rescue himself. So wait,
does he kill this man? Was he going to kill this man anyway, or does he kill him specifically in order to use his intestines to climb out a window?
I'm hesitant to say because I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong again, but I'm pretty sure the man was already dead and or dying, and then he cut him open and grabbed the intestines and jumped out. I need to rewatch that movie. It's really fun.
Okay. Is that, I mean, You should watch Hidden Figures. I'm not going to put
Yes.
that on.
Watch Hidden Figures. Watch Hidden Figures. Although if you need a palate cleanser from any of the Black History Month movies that we did, because we really watched some intense movies this month. Machete. I am also still reading The Power Broker. I don't know if I've mentioned that recently.
I was wondering, we haven't recorded an episode in about a month, and well, no, I wasn't really wondering whether you were still reading The Power Broker. I knew you were still reading The Power Broker.
You knew I was still reading The Power Broker. But there's a good reason for that. It was because I had to take time off to do a round of edits on the book that I am having published by a real publisher come fall. And I couldn't focus on Robert Moses. So
later this year, we're going to have a Sarah Wrote a Book special episode. And also, we're breaking our rule about two-part things purely because we're doing a two-part episode on a miniseries that deals with subject matter that was covered in your book. The reason why we stick to movies instead of doing series is because I would get bored out of my skull if I had to research the same thing 8 weeks in a row or however long The Tudors is or something. Whereas this is around a subject that you have been passionate about for decades and where you could happily talk about it for 4 or 5 hours. So that is the difference.
Yes. As far back as I remember, I have been talking about Jonestown. And also Powers Booth will be making a return to our show in that episode.
Who we last saw in our only other two-parter, Tombstone.
Yes. I don't know that we'll need to go 2 parts. Watching the Guyana tragedy.
I think if it's in, how long is its running time? I feel like if its running time is over 2 hours and it has a natural split and we're not rating it till the second episode, like we might as well just give you room to share your knowledge and us just room to chatter.
It's 3 hours with commercial breaks removed. Mm-hmm. I truthfully, I'm a fan of the miniseries, although it has shortcomings that you will witness.
Okay.
But that said, I don't know that there is enough material in play to stretch it.
Sarah, can you tell people about our Patreon?
Let's do some housekeeping. So our podcast baby has matured into a toddler, and we launched a Patreon, simply an effort to defray some of the costs associated with bringing our show to you. Platform hosting, recording, equipment, research. And we occasionally have to order a book off the internet. We also sometimes have to pay for movie rentals, and sometimes we may want to see a movie in theaters, or we may have to pay for transit to see each other in person if we want to record in the same place at the same time. And we are offering shout outs and access to our awful first 3 episodes to anyone who chips in for us. And with that, we'd love to thank Brandon and Gates, who are already signed up and have been loyal Patreon members.
Thank you, Brandon and Gates.
Thank you. And if you liked our show, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and tell a friend or plural friends and share us on social media. We hear it helps. You can follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram, where we have visual aids from our episodes. And our Instagram handle is @BioPickAPodcastStory. So do check us out there. And we'll link to that in the show notes as well. And please check out our webpage at biopickapodcaststory.podbean.com to see the official episode ratings for all of the movies that we've done so far. And if you would like to get in touch, you can email us at biopiclistenermailbag@gmail.com. Our theme music is by Ben Patch, and the intro is his song Slater Cannonball, and the outro is Spring Breakers, and you can check him out on Spotify.
Tune in next week when we'll be talking about Wired with our returning guest, Liam McEnany. And Wired is a biopic about John Belushi. It is considered one of the worst biopics ever, and it is based on what is considered Bob Woodward's worst book. And I'll have quite a bit to say about why it is Bob Woodward's worst book.
There's a satanic cab driver in this movie. I'm not looking forward to finding the portal to hell in which we have to watch this movie and then watching it.
Well, I guess I did find it once in it was on those websites that just exist to be archives of millions of pages to show what the web has looked like on any given day in the past, I don't know, 35 years or so. I found a page where someone had added the full film of Wired on this archive page, so it was about 3 by 5 inches, and but it was 3 by 5 inches of what looked like someone taking a VHS tape of a VHS tape of it being played. So
this is going to be great.
This is going to be amazing.
So yeah, yeah. It's
and we'll have some fun stories about all the characters who are just that guy from SNL, because the real members of the SNL first 5 seasons cast some of them would not let their names go on this movie.
I mean, this is kind of like walking right up to our biopics of the damned.
I think it might have been listed under biopics of the damned.
Yeah, so it's going to be good times.
The David Bowie movie where they could only show him singing covers because...
it's not even covers, it's just sound-alikes.
Oh, no. So he isn't singing covers that David Bowie also sang.
No, it's songs that sound like something that David Bowie might have sang.
Oh, no.
That's what the Hendrix one is, too.
No. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah, it is. It's quite horrible.
What else do we have on there? Under biopics of the damned. Oh, Factory Girl, which we keep kicking down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, I kick Factory Girl down the road because I don't really want to watch it again. And I kick Last Emperor down the road because I don't trust any of the sources.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be something. Okay. And on that note, let's close out the show.
All right.
Good night, Rena.
Good night, Sarah. Have fun in London.
Thank you. Do you want to say goodnight to the earnest and the cynical, or just one of them?
No, and good night to the earnest and the cynical.
Good night.
Good night.